Hey there, it's Donna. I've got some DIY Christmas ornaments that are so easy to make using Dollar Tree finds. I found this beautiful lid that fits some mini mason jars in the kitchen section, and you can see how pretty it is. It fits these little jelly jars really nicely. So last year I visited Ohio, and in case you don't know, I am in Canada, so it was a lovely visit, and I got to go to this really cool craft market, and I found this beautifully scented potpourri mix, and I used some last year, and I'm using it again this year. It smells so good. It's got a beautiful cinnamon and apple scent to it. So I put a bit of that in the bottom, and now I decided I wanted to add some pine cones to the mix just to give it a bit more of a holiday feel. So I'm just going to put these mini hemlock pine cones that I had foraged recently in there, and then I'll continue to add the potpourri mix into the jar until I get enough to fill it up. I do have a foraging video on how I collected these pine cones. I know a few of you have asked where else you can get these little pine cones. Unfortunately, I don't know where you can all get them, but you'll have to just check out your local craft stores and wherever you like to get some different things in your area. So I put the lid on to my little jar, and now I'm going to decorate it just a little bit. I've got some really pretty twine here along with some pip berries that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm just going to cut off a length of my twine, and I'm going to create just a basic simple loopy bow. You could use some lace or some ribbon. I really like the country look of this. It kind of has that primitive look that's really popular, and I thought that this twine would go with that really nicely. So I'm just adding some extra tails to my bow, and when I made this, I accidentally made it a little too big, so I do end up making another one, and it's a little smaller, but I did that off camera. So I'm just using a wire, so I have something to attach this to onto the handle. So I just wrap the wire around it, and then I'm going to twist it really good at the back side of this and trim off any excess. So I'm just going to kind of fluff it up a bit and straighten it out. And now I'm going to add some of the pip berries. So Dollar Tree has had these a few years now, and I love to use them for my different Christmas crafts. And so I'm just cutting off a strand of this, and then I'm going to wrap it around my finger just to create some curly cues. And then with that, I'm going to wrap it around the handle. Another nice little touch would be some little flowers if you prefer. That would be really nice. I'm not sure if the lids come with different shapes. The only one my store had was the star. So I've got those pip berries in place, and I really like how that looks. I decided to add some more pine cones just to go with what's inside the jar. And I just thought that that would just really go with the country look, as well as just adding a nice natural element. So I'm just going to glue a few of the hemlock pine cones into place. Somebody also had mentioned they thought that maybe the hemlock that I was collecting was perhaps poisonous. These are not. This is a totally safe tree to touch and forage from. There is some other plants that have got the same name as this hemlock tree, but they're two totally completely different species of plants. So I thought I should just mention that. All right, so I've got my pine cones in place here. I'm just going to straighten things out, and that was it. It was such an easy ornament to make. I like to look for things in the fall for Christmas crafting, and I found this wood bead garland with these beautiful metal leaves, and I thought that it would be perfect to turn this into some Christmas ornaments. Just be aware the leaves are double-sided, and some of mine had popped off. I did end up losing one of my leaves. I don't know if it fell off in the store or where, but what you're going to do now is just remove those leaves off of the garland. You can see the ones with two. You do have to kind of work at it a bit. You want to be all careful as well, because this is metal. It could cut your fingers, so just be careful. If you struggle a little bit, use some needle nose pliers just to pop them off. Just be careful that you don't damage the metal. So popping off all of those leaves off of 2 strands, and now I'm just going to clean off that hot glue off of the back. I took these outside, sprayed them with some Flora Life 24 karat gold spray paint. Use whatever spray paint you would like to use for your project. I have got these all dry now, and I'm going to be using this strand of fairy lights. I picked these ones up off of Amazon, and it is a strand of 20 lights. So I've got a total of, I think, 11 leaves. I will be setting one of them aside for another project. Gonna place one light at the back side and add a little bit of hot glue and just hold that there in place while the glue sets. I am going to be going every second mini light or fairy light on the strand. I am not putting a leaf on each light because I am just going to be using this on a mini tree, and I thought it would be nice to have some of the other mini lights glowing in around it. I really like how this looks. I have seen other projects similar to this, and I thought that this was a simple project and yet looks so beautiful on the tree. I also thought that this would be beautiful if you had a woodland themed Christmas tree. Dollar Tree carries these mini frames both in gold and silver. I'm just removing this one from the packaging. I am very much into gold. I love the warm glow that it gives, but of course, use whatever you prefer. I'm removing the backing. I'm also going to remove the paper, and I was surprised this is actual glass. I thought that maybe it was plastic, but it's not. I'm going to remove the stand on the back of this panel. Now, if you are wanting to display this on your, say, table somewhere, do not remove the stand. Then you have that option. I've got that beautiful scrapbook paper. It's the Holiday Spice, and I picked it up from Michael's last year. It's got a beautiful forest green color with the foiled leaves. I'm taking the backing of my picture frame, and I'm going to use that as my template for my paper. I'm going to be creating a little insert. I'm just using my craft knife, but you can, of course, use a pencil and some scissors to cut your piece of paper out. I just found that cutting around with the craft knife went a little bit faster. I'm also going to be creating a backing for this because you can see the backside of the frame. It is not very pretty. So I'm just going to, again, do the same thing. I'm putting my frame down, and then I'm going to use my craft knife and cut around it. Okay, so I have all my pieces here. Now I'm going to start to assemble this all back together. I'm putting the glass back in place. Then I'm going to put my scrapbook paper into the glass and then put my backing back in place here, putting the tabs down, making sure those are pressed down really well. You can see how beautiful that scrapbook paper is in that frame. You could just leave it as is even, but I want to turn mine into an ornament. So I've got this beautiful organza ribbon. It's kind of like a crinkled organza. I'm creating a loop, and then I am going to hot glue this to the back side of my frame. Now I'm being very careful with how much hot glue I'm adding because I do not want any bulk. I'm going to press my organza into the hot glue and it seeped through both layers, but I still used the tip of my hot glue gun just to melt that hot glue underneath into the ribbon even more. Again, being sure that I'm not adding any extra bulk. So I'm just going to smooth that out, and now I'm going to put the backing on the frame. So I'm going to be using a combination of some Aleene's tacky glue as well as some hot glue. That will give you some long-term hold and then some immediate hold. I'm just running a bead along the sides, each side of the frame, not adding any to the corners because that's where I decided I would add my hot glue. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now, working quickly. I'm going to add my hot glue, and then I'm going to line up my paper and press that into place. Now there is going to be some glue that seeps out from the edge. I'm going to flip it upside down and press that down just to make sure it's got some good hold there. And that's when I discovered the seepage from my glue because I added a little bit too much of the tacky glue, but that's okay. It cleans up really well. I decided to add just a basic little bow, just to add just a little bit more elegance to this, because I think it just turns out so pretty. So I'm going to just use that same organza ribbon that I used to create my hanger. So it's really small, and I'm going to use some hot glue to put that into place as well. I'm just trimming up the tails just so it doesn't look too awkward and covers up all that foiled paper. Okay, so as I mentioned before, I had an extra leaf, so I'm going to add it to the glass. I'm using a combination of some E6000 and some hot glue. I'm being quite generous with the hot glue because there is some divots and whatnot on the back side of the leaf. So I put that into place, and then I'm going to put this in the middle of the glass, and that is it. It is so elegant and beautiful. Would make a really beautiful gift set if you made multiples of this, and I think it turned out stunning. Dollar Tree's been getting these village pieces in. Some of them come with the tea light in the bottom. This one did not, so I'll have to add my own, but you can see there was some glue on the top. So I wanted to take a viewer's suggestion and use some rubbing alcohol to remove that glue. I just wanted to see if it would work, and it did. It took a little bit of elbow grease, but eventually I did get most of that adhesive off, enough to the point where it wasn't going to affect what I was going to do with this house. So I've got some other videos on how I changed this up, and I'm going to be combining the two techniques that I have done on this house. So I'm going to first off create a little guide hole at the top in the center of the roof. Now, if you have a drill, please use a drill to drill your hole into the top. But I know not everybody has that, so I'm using an awl just to kind of poke my guide hole into the roof of this house. I am going to be adding an eye hook to create a hanger. Yes, we're turning this little house into an ornament. I thought it would be such a fun thing to do. So I've got my eye hook and I'm pressing really hard into the house. That first time around, just with my fingers, wasn't working. So I've got my needle nose pliers and I'm pushing down really hard. I'm going through the plastic here at this point. Now, I found that when I just used my fingers were slipping. So I went back to the needle nose pliers and it worked quite well. It just took a little time. So that's why I say if you've got a drill, then go that route for sure. But like I said, not everybody has one. So I wanted just to provide another option. You could also maybe burn through the plastic. I never tried that or thought of that until now. You could try that out, but that worked fine. You're also going to need E6000 to help anchor that screw in place. I took this outside, gave it a coat, 2 to 3 coats of spray paint to cover up all that plastic. I usually coat these things with a layer of some gesso, which is a primer. That really helps to seal off all that color and then doesn't affect future layers. But I wanted to try spray paint this time. I'm going to be adding some silver craft paint onto the roof. I wanted to create like an old vintage tin roof that you would see back in the old days. I ended up using about 2 to 3 coats of the silver craft paint, again, just on the roof. I was thinking too, maybe trying copper and then trying to give a copper patina look. That might be a really cool option too. I have never tried that, so I might have to play around and see how I can come up with that effect for you. In the meantime, I decided just to go with the silver. I really think that is a pretty look, going with the silver tin roof, and then we are going to age this. So this is all nice and dry. I like that. You can see the color is still showing through, but it's not going to affect this next step. I'm using some Deco Art wood gel stain in the color walnut along with some water. And I'm going to dip my paintbrush into the water, and all I'm going to do is start to apply the walnut stain all over the house, including the silver paint, and I'm also going to be getting right into all the nooks and crannies. You can see how it ages it, and it creates such a neat look when you apply some of the thicker gel stain into all those little crevices and whatnot. It just creates kind of like that grungy look, aging it beautifully. So now I'm going over the bricks, and this is where you're going to really see that effect pop. I am using the water because sometimes that just helps spread it out a little bit more easily. And then I use a rag to dab off any excess. You just want to be careful not to wipe off too much. But if you do, just go back in and add some more to create a look that you're happy with. But I think this is so cool. I'm so happy with how this turned out. You can see the difference between before and after right here. And it turned out so well. So now I'm going to put my battery operated light into place, and I'm just going to be using some hot glue to help hold it in place. And another thing too, I thought if you're concerned about this scratching or anything and removing your finish, then please do give it a coat of some clear matte spray, and that will help protect the craft paint and whatnot that we used. All right, so now for our hanger. Use any string or ribbon that you would like. I was thinking some vintage lace would be really pretty for this one. I decided to just go with this twine that I already had out. I just created a loop, tied the two ends together, and now I'm like, you know what? I feel like it just needed just a little bit more, so I'm adding a bow at the top around the eye hook. You could add more embellishments to this if you like, but I like the simplicity of how this one turned out. I could see several throughout a tree, or you could even omit the ornament part and like the hanger part, and you could just make some of these and make your own village or put them in a wreath. I thought that would be really pretty. I'm going to have the tutorials for the other ways I've created these houses linked down below for you, so you can check those out. But this turned out so beautiful. I'm happy with how it turned out. If you're looking for some more unique ornament ideas, check this playlist out right here. It is packed full of so many different ideas for you to check out. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know your favorite project of the day was, and we will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.